question that I've thought about a lot is how do you build community and what is that about? Uh, I think it's really, really important if you think about anything that is created, it's really about creating community. An organization, a company, a business is really not going to function very well without a sense of community. And one of the tricky things is getting people to jump on board on something and be part of something when there's not necessarily any sort of profits to be made or anything that's just like clear cut that's there, that's available, and there's not a good sense of what things actually are. It's a sort of creative process where you create something and make it a particular community. And I've thought about this a lot and what does it take? And I think there's some, a little bit of research on this. There's probably more than I know of. But I don't know what the answer is, to be honest. I think, the sort of brief synopsis is that you need to find people that are passionate about something and that they're going to pursue something for the sake of pursuing it on their own interest. And that's really what you need to do. And frankly, it's really hard to find those people, right? To just find people that are willing to do something just for the sake of doing it, with the ups and downs that happen with doing something and sort of buying into something and seeing something. It's a really tricky sort of thing, right? And I've had the opportunity to be part of creating several things, and the whole process is really mixed in terms of what is it, what's going on, and what's buying into it. And I think the only answer that I can say that I think is probably, I've said this a lot of times, is that it's just about showing up and doing something, being that lone nut in the corner that is doing something so much, so long, so repeatedly for the sake of everybody else that people just buy into this particular thing. And, it's really thinking about how do you not be self-serving, but also self-serving in the sense that you sort of protect yourself, right? Like that's part of my experience in terms of when some things don't work. It's largely having to do with sort of political things, right? Like somebody else wants to take responsibility for somebody else's effort, or get them to do something that sort of doesn't fit their best interest, or all of these kind of political things that sort of taint the community, and then it makes it fall apart. So it's a real delicate balance of how do you get people to buy into something, and it's not clear cut. What does that actually look like? How do you actually get something that people will show up and sort of see it for what it is? Because all of essentially what we do is community building, right? Like nothing in this world can be like, this is a definitive thing, right? Like if you think of Meta, for example, right? Facebook just announced that they're laying off something 11,000 individuals around the world. That's a lot of people. And that's going to be very hurtful for the community that they actually form. But how do they get to the point where they get to have at least 11,000 people that they can lay off, right? And I don't know how many they still have on staff, but it's probably a ridiculous amount still. But how do you get to that point, right? Like after some point, once you reach hundreds of people that are on board and sort of part of something, and it becomes a little bit of a self-sustaining prophecy, becomes a little easier to run things. But how do you get people to join something, to sort of believe something, to see that there's something that is there that they can imagine and becomes sort of a physical, concrete, symbolic thing in their mind? I don't know. I don't know, other than the fact, the only thing that I can say is to be the one lone nut that shows up all the time and just keeps doing it. Um, and, you know, trying to, and so it's maybe not enough for that because I'm thinking about the sort of political aspect of things that there's a bit of a, there's a political balance that goes on, right? Like where you are recognizing other people and you're understanding where they're coming from, but at the same time, you continue to move forward. And I don't know what the right answer is. I'm not like I think a lot of times, and you know, if you do these kind of things, you'll understand. Um, you don't. There's always going to be people that are not going to like what you do, and there's always and part of the reason is there's never a right answer. Right? It's not something that ever jumps up to you and says, "Hey, this is the right answer." Um, it's just kind of a mishmash.